day. I don't want you to have to repeat. Thanks, Kevin.
No problem.
Okay, it's all you.
Okay, so we're good to go again. Yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, we can come down and we can really isolate down into specific campaigns or look at things holistically across the entire you know, campus, if that's how we have things structured within the marketing cloud itself. So from a broad perspective, the calendar capabilities really allow us to make sense of everything going on. The other thing I'll touch on, and I'm going to go back to our active month here. So let me just do this. The other thing that we can do is, let's say we've got a series of communications going out, emails, what have you, but we want to also make sense of, you know, physical events that are happening, you know, whether it's on campus or wherever it may be. We can also add in events so that we have those placeholders sitting there. So if we're looking at kind of the broad strategy with, you know, whether it's an event, whatever it might be, you can actually add in non-native activities that aren't going to be derived or executed through the marketing cloud, but are, you know, maybe they're most likely the purpose of the communication you might be sending out. You can actually include that in here, so you can type in the name, description, associate it with any of the campaigns you may have running, and you can again manage all of that within the platform itself. So it really creates that one-stop shop. One of the other things I'll touch on is that we have the capabilities of making sense of a calendar across multiple channels. So whether it be an automated email, we have mobile SMS messaging capabilities. If we want to identify, if we were potentially using any of those other additional channels outside of email, we can identify and isolate down into just the mobile messages we might be sending out, or emails. If we're using other capabilities, like we have Facebook and social media capabilities that we could be linking out to or making posts onto a Facebook page, we can identify all of those things, and then as those communications go out here down on the bottom panel, we can start to see performance, so opens, clicks, bounces, unsubscribes, things of that nature. So this has become a really useful set of functionality within the platform from the perspective of really managing a broader umbrella of campaigns, departments, groups that might be leveraging the platform. And then one of the other things with that in mind, I'll touch on here momentarily, is business units. And I believe you all have business units in place. So we only have a few in this specific environment, but the capabilities remain the same whether you have a few business units or 40 business units. One of the things we can do is we can actually isolate down and look at specific business units and their communication. So if we want to look at that big, broad umbrella view of everything going on and then isolate down to a specific business unit, we can simply click within there, and we can start to isolate where we have you know, things going on, or where a communication might be coming out of. In this particular environment, all of our emails are coming out of our Connected University business unit. So I'm going to click that back on. Otherwise, we won't have any you know, data showing up there. But the calendar within the platform is really designed to give you that management capability. So is there any questions about that? Is this something that's familiar, or do you have questions that I can answer around how to leverage this across you know, multiple business units, things of that nature?
I've got a couple questions, and I wanted to open it up for folks who are working on social media and also the experts in email, if they first have questions. How much of this you've already covered here?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if my question would be really more directed towards you, Nalini, in terms of how we've set up the business unit security in terms of getting a 360 the way he's showing it here. Have we forestalled that ability unless you're a user?
Yeah. So I think I heard, but if there's more questions, or there's more, it sounds like there was questions around the administrative aspects of making this available to different potential end users, if I heard correctly, but you know, certainly correct me if I'm wrong.
Not quite, Kevin. So we've got a couple things going on, and I think that this would probably be a good thing for you and I to follow up on.
Okay.
We've got, just so you know, we've got a number of interesting requirements that dictate, if you're, for example, in Asian studies, we only want you to be able to email Asian studies constituents as audience members.
Yep.
However, we set up the enterprise database differently. So it's not like Asian studies people own their own records in Salesforce. So part of what we're wrestling with is what actually belongs in the domain exclusively in Marketing Cloud which may be different than how we've configured things today because the point of origin is predominantly Salesforce. So I want to table that because we could spend 3 hours on that topic, but we're
Sure.
on. But I've got a couple of other questions, Kevin.
Okay.
The first is regarding SMS. We have a couple of tools for outbound broadcast SMS and also one-on-one. I don't know if your facility here is proprietary to Salesforce or if you can plug in with other tools.
From an SMS capability, let me just jump back here momentarily. So along this panel, you can see the channels that we function in. So mobile is definitely one of them. We have proprietary, software, if you will, that is native to our solution. The benefit of that is you can build campaigns that might incorporate email and SMS as a broader communication strategy. So incorporating both of those channels. That being said, we have other tools that connect in with our CRM. So we have a number of partners that you can plug in SMS capabilities, that one-to-one or one-to-many communication through SMS specifically.
We've implemented, Kevin, so we're familiar.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, the real benefits of ours, I mean, is that you can leverage it across a campaign strategy or a communication strategy versus maybe you're sending emails out of the Marketing Cloud and then SMS out of another solution. It can all be integrated in and automated, so you're not having to manually do each of those things. It can all be built out and really baked out, if you will. So ours is, proprietary, and in terms of plugging one in, it wouldn't be really in the scope of what's recommended or probably even capable of the platform.
Terrific. That clarification is quite helpful. Thanks.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'll just throw them out there, and then whenever they get answered, we can get to them. But I still want to learn more about how Social Studio relates to Marketing Cloud as a whole, just globally. More of an internal workflow question I have is when we talk about campaigns here at CU, I know we can technically post Facebook pages through Marketing Cloud, but we're not even talking about that stuff. We're talking about email. So we got to figure out how we're doing that with our different people. But then again, it goes back to the Social Studio Marketing Cloud. So Social Studio has its own calendar in there, so we see all of our tweets and all that stuff. Does the calendar relate to this calendar, or is that a totally separate calendar? And then my last question is out there, and then accounts as well. So okay, here on this one example, this message types Facebook page, and I can't read the number next to that or whatever that is, but
yeah.
How does that relate to accounts then in like Social Studio when we're talking licensing and things? So that's kind of what I want to explore, because they're two different
definitions.
Yeah,
perfect.
All the different issues around here, how do they all come back together? So at least at this point, that's what's in my head.
Yeah, so sure, and I know we've got Jen Phillips on the line. I believe she's going to be speaking with you all next. But in terms of how Social Studio really interfaces with the Marketing Cloud, you'll see that Social Studio is, accessible within the Marketing Cloud under this, broader umbrella in one of the, 4 to 5 channels that we generally function in. In terms of, workflow, social media and then, digital marketing in that respect, at least within the Marketing Cloud, they don't necessarily interface, directly in many respects. What I find and what we find is that depending upon if you're connecting the, information from social media that you might be capturing or posts that, prospective or a constituent, student, whatever that may be communicating with you, if that's feeding back into your CRM, that can inform future communication. But in terms of, outbound communication to, a student, they don't necessarily interface with one another. So just because somebody sends a tweet to you all may not immediately drive an email response. As I'm sure you're familiar with Social Studio, you have all the capabilities of responding, identifying, monitoring, understand affinities, things of that nature. But how they all interface, the crux of how it really fits into the Marketing Cloud is more from an accessibility standpoint. It's built right in here. You have single sign-on essentially into Social Studio. So if I click on Social Studio, as I'm sure you probably know, you can then log right in and away you go. So you're not, bouncing around to 2 or 3 different platforms. It's, one collective environment. And if you need to be in Social Studio for a half an hour and then come back out, you can pop right back out and build an email or whatever that might be. But in terms of, you know, cross-channel or multi-channel or omni-channel communication, it just ends up, it's a different animal, as I'm sure you understand. So it's more about accessibility into the platform and probably less so how, you know, you're leveraging email, SMS, and social media. A lot of that's going to can feed back into the CRM to provide that broader picture of an engagement of, you know, the students, regardless of, you know, which group they're in, whether it's Asian studies or, you know, any other group that you might be interacting with. So that's probably more of the context of it, and then how, like, a tight integration just by the nature of the channels of email, social, SMS, what have you.
I can appreciate that, and the fact that they were discrete products from different companies that Salesforce is trying to integrate. Not an easy thing to do. So, but given that, I want to give you a scenario and tell me a couple of options. New student welcome. We have new freshmen showing up. Matt and his team are monitoring various social channels and a proprietary forum within our learning management system. We also have the Salesforce platform that the students can log into to take a look at their to-dos and their academic information and schedule appointments with various student success team members. Let's say that Nalini has fallen off the map and she's not given her housing deposit and was really gung-ho, but all of a sudden lackluster. The treatment strategy would be, let's reach out to Nalini via email and social channels. How would that work, given Marketing Cloud?
That's a great question. I mean, in terms of from a email perspective, or even if you wanted to use SMS, you know, that is very manageable. The great thing about having that CRM as that central hub of information, of, you know, a vantage point of all the information you might have captured on a student, you can quickly identify any of the students that might fall into that set of criteria or meet those variables of, it's, you know, we're nearing the first day of classes, they haven't completed payments for whatever it may be, housing, you know, financial aid, the whole, you know, that whole deal, those really important critical items, we can identify quickly and email with them. In terms of social media, you should be able to identify, as long as you have that information captured, that person has a social account. I'd be curious to get, I know Jen's on the phone, I'd be curious Jen's thoughts just from a tactical perspective of how to manage something like that on a broader scale. You know, is it an individual student perspective? What recommendations you have? Jen's really our social expert. So I understand the tactics and the capabilities of the platform, but I'd be curious to hear Jen's thoughts just based on, you know, how does something like that get handled tactically across the broader, you know, population of students potentially.
So let me just clarify. Hi, everybody. Hi, and Kevin, I'll try and keep it short to make sure we're letting you get through your content. And then definitely, guys, we can also take some of this for those of you that will be in the session coming up in the next little bit. We will take some of this, but I just want to clarify on the scenario that just got laid out. Is this a proactive outreach to a student or a prospective student that we already know that has not had any kind of outreach to us on social channels?
Yeah, we could use that as an example. I mean, today, what we do after students matriculate, if they have not made an advising appointment, there's a proactive outreach via email, and that's as sophisticated as we've gotten. We use SMS to confirm appointments and to do reminders, but it's a broadcast. In a different scenario, it's not yet on our platform, but we have had experience with it in different venues. We do back and forth texting with students, particularly athletic tutors, for example.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get towards is, where are the integration points out of the box? If there aren't any, where ought they be so we can build them? And what I'm hearing from Kevin is that the locus point is effectively the Salesforce platform, and then you work with Marketing Cloud to execute different treatment or campaign strategies. But I don't know, you know, that's as clear as the picture is for me, and I don't know about other colleagues if people are just as fuzzy. So I don't want to derail us, but I do want to get much more specific than just talking about generic capabilities, because we're using the tools a while. So we're eager to dig in, and we want to do it in a really constructive way with you guys. So,
gotcha. Let me just, let me just respond to the first idea, which is how do we do outreach on social channels? And what I want to caution you on is to do broadcast outreach to individuals using social channels without some sort of point of interaction from the student, unless it's an emergency situation, and in which case it's not to a particular person necessarily, it's from the brand as a general blast, or publishing, really. So you can do it, but it's frowned upon as a method of communications to do generic kind of broadcast outreach that's triggered. Social should stay.
And on social, and
oh,
in
okay,
fact,
perfect.
What you is often respond, right?
Oh, perfect.
Respond immediately back on the channel.
Gotcha. Okay, so when just in the essence of time, why don't we go through that during and in the tool in Social Studio, and I'll take you through at a high level, and some of it's going to be a little bit mock-up-y, so bear with me on that. I'll take you through that scenario where you're interacting with students or or a prospect or whatever moment in the life cycle they are, and how you would pass that information to the people that need it that might not also be Social Studio users, which could include downstream Marketing Cloud for email and SMS outreach, and I'll talk to the actual integration points between Social Studio and the rest of the suite, which will then tie everything together. And then after it, as a takeaway, Susan, keep me honest on this, we can send out an overview that gives a very, very high-level view of how these products work together. Does that sound good?
Yeah, and actually, Jen, I can today we have access to an environment where Marketing Cloud is integrated, and I'll
yep.
that. And then I can also talk about
yeah, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, but I'll talk social, customer, or student services, which is built in. You don't have to build it as the integration between social engagement when you want to integrate it back into Salesforce, and then kind of talk through the mechanics of what that looks like in your data model, and then how then downstream Marketing Cloud, the suite that Kevin has on the screen right now, can leverage that information for continued messaging.
Okay.
I have
Go ahead.
just to finish that up, and we can answer it some other time because I don't want to take up everything, but I still want to better understand social media through Marketing Cloud versus Social Studio, because we're looking to leverage Social Studio as our management platform. I don't necessarily know that I want just all of the zillion people that are going to be using Marketing Cloud to be able to send a tweet or a Facebook post. They won't, actually. They won't have the keys to that. So unless we understand that better. So going forward, that's what I want to know is then how does that all work? Who's doing what, where, and how? So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, at a basic level, as you saw, when I clicked on Social Studio, it still required a login. So even if the application is turned on, you're good to go. The individual would still need that login to be able to get into there. Additionally, we can also limit, and this goes beyond just Social Studio. You can, as I'm sure you know, you can limit the capabilities or the permissions for each individual user, and it's very granular. You can get really deep into there. You can create those roles and profiles to define what each end user, depending upon their needs or what's being expected of them in terms of using the platform, what that looks like. So we can dive into that, and I'm happy to show you where that's located if you're familiar, but it's you click under administration, and we can, you can dive in, and essentially any of those administrative end users can identify those roles, provision that out to whomever needs whatever permissions in order to make sure that they have proper access and not, to your point, too much access where they're sending out emails or tweets or anything like that. But for Social Studio, you still require a login. So that would be handled in that way at the bare minimum.
Understood, and we've configured Marketing Cloud to date. What we don't know is the question that Matt asked, if it's not integrated at all, how do we actually do the the work that we want to do, and I think we would be best served by doing a detailed working session, hammering out the business process flows, and that will give you some more direction in terms of how the platform does or doesn't play. Okay?
Yeah,
Otherwise, I think
absolutely.
go in a few circles because we're not prepared to have that conversation just yet.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and then oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
We had another question here, Kevin.
Great.
So just setting the stage for just a few things I've been working through in Marketing Cloud. Number one is the idea of users working inside of Salesforce. So any marketing automation tool, I would argue, is a strong argument to be in the tool, to stay in the tool. Just sending out, basic email communications even, I would still argue that that should all be done in the automation tool. So I'm curious, where is the line from Salesforce, what the recommendation is generally, for when you're going to stay in your tool? We're not doing lead scoring, right? We're not doing, at least not yet, maybe prospective students. I think that's a huge potential for us. But as we're working through building out a scalable enterprise model with several business units outside of what we're going to do now, what's the threshold where we say inside or outside? And then the second question, and we don't have to answer them all now, I'm just kind of putting them out there. Second question is around preference centers. We have several custom preference centers. And talking to other universities as well, it seems like it's a pretty common theme. We have independent business units that are doing very different things, that have different lists. It's not like one company that runs a marketing department. We have like several companies using the platform. And we've done a lot of work with Nimblejack. And maybe just some thoughts there in terms of scalability for bringing on different business units on the platform. Again, I don't want to answer them all now, but I want to put those out as pretty big topics that I've been working through personally. And
sure. Yeah, to try and tackle the first one, because I think we can do it, at least in a short response pretty quickly. When you say, using or communicating outside of the platform, what would be, if Marketing Cloud wasn't the engine or the platform to execute, communication, what would be the alternatives? Is that something like Outlook or another point solution? What would that typically look like outside of the platform, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, sorry, clarifying. So inside or outside of Salesforce, right? Creating my queries, Salesforce using those exclusions or inclusions from reports inside Salesforce, as opposed to I'm building my email templates in Marketing Cloud. I can build my reports inside of Salesforce, but I can still access those inside of Marketing Cloud. So why would I ever need to go initiate an email send from within Salesforce?
Yeah, so this is a larger discussion about the integration and the roadmap to get to where you're actually working in one system, right?
Yeah.
Salesforce.
No,
not necessarily.
My argument is stay in your automation tools.
For marketers.
For marketers.
I mean, again, we're not
communicators, not just marketers,
Right,
but for communicators. Because they're different purposes from what I.
Yeah, so.
And Colin, does your question then tie to Matt, where Matt, you were kind of wondering which ones are staying from the studio then? Kind of,
Yeah, and similarly, when I was asking the other day on the call, that we're trying to get all of our users to not have to go to Twitter to do stuff. So where do we keep them from a workflow management perspective if we're all going to align on this, which I love?
Right.
I don't want to, but in this case you have to go out to Twitter, or in this case you have to go to Outlook.
You're here for the last session too, right?
Yeah.
You're here all night.
But yeah, that's just framing the general question.
Yeah.
Better understanding that.
Yeah. And to speak to the marketing automation piece inside of Marketing Cloud versus Salesforce CRM, it's a great question. It comes up anytime both of those clouds are being used. It's a question that comes up, I would say, almost every time of what's the best practice workflow, what have you. I would say, yeah, every situation, every university is different. There's certainly quite a bit of capabilities from an automation perspective, from a campaign management perspective, from being able to build all of that out and allow it to function on an ongoing basis. I would agree in that sense. that's a great usage of it, or use of the Marketing Cloud as a platform, because it's all in that environment. One of the benefits, though, in terms of leveraging both the Marketing Cloud and CRM, is that if you have people who are going to be leveraging a lot of the reporting and queries within the Marketing Cloud or within CRM, and you want them to have the functionality of the Marketing Cloud, like, for instance, we've got and you may already use this. I apologize for my just being naive to what you may be leveraging within the platform today, but it's a functionality set like dynamic content, where you can identify different attributes or variables and adjust the content that's going to be presented in a content block based on that, and much of which could be directly derived from your CRM. In that instance, if you have somebody who's either maybe a less sophisticated end user of a marketing automation tool like the Marketing Cloud, or they don't need to go into and run a campaign on an ongoing basis, this is a single email maybe they send out once every few months or a few times a year, that to me is maybe like the line of demarcation between the two. But yeah, I mean, and I think the beauty of it is it really depends on, you know, outcomes you're looking to derive, and that can determine who stays more in the Marketing Cloud or who's spending the vast majority of their time in their CRM, but leveraging some of the rich functionality you'd find in the Marketing Cloud. So I don't know if that answers it 100%, but to me, that's where I find that's kind of where that line kind of, or that divide, if you will, or the shift generally occurs. It depends on how automated does the communication need to be, how frequent is it going out, are there other channels being leveraged? That's a clear differentiator in that sense.
Yeah, and I would, Kevin, if I can comment on that. A couple folks in our calls have referenced wanting to increase usage of community for prospective students and when they come on board. So I would wonder too, sometimes you're using Twitter and Facebook, and those are the primary channels today. But if you start to develop that native proficiency and affinity for communities, potentially that could automatically bring that conversation together because it's already around the platform. It's already a part of what's natively coming together. So we'll be looking at that a little bit more at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
But I don't know if community might not need to be a part of the mindset here wise as well.
All Boulder undergraduate students are part of the community. We build the advising dashboard.
Right, MyCU.
MyCU Hub.
Yeah.
But what we don't have is, you know, the notion of affinity groups. Student groups are defined all sorts of different ways around here, so I don't know the real, but a mechanism that guys could actually really connect one with those students, I imagine might be on your radar. So desire. Yeah.
Well, a good suggestion. To go back to your question, did that, do you have a problem today where you're not able to keep markers or keep markers out, or
you're not live yet?
No, they're not live. I think the initial solution was built with the idea from ACF to use in buildings.
oh, I see.
The more recent training, we're not.
Okay.
And then
you've been needing for
right, so it changes the perspective. I mean, I have my own take, and my take is to stay tool. And then there's also a security level there for people. There's an assumption that people that have access to Boulder lists do not actually have access to them. There might be crossover, right? So the idea for Max, like Aaron, can actually create those reports, people can access it. Seems like in my mind to separate that out and keep it in our until we have that deep meaning. I think you know what's been alluded to. I think the journey of integrating the social, that stuff has to be, right? I mean, you can still initiate it, I think, elsewhere, but I think from the majority of what I've seen from the communicators, at least on a high level, looking at what they're going to be doing, is generally taking dynamic lists, generating them, and saying, I want to send out my, my newsletter, my 40 messages. Right, so it's not as much as maybe they're tracking like aggregate level 6, or not even 6, open rates, things like that, but not following people on their journey that this person clicked on the sporting event and then they actually came to the alumni event, but they didn't donate. And then
Well,
we're
I
gonna
think that's where they want to
that is,
go.
and that is where we're gonna go.
And that's sort of where alumni is now, but they're having to do it really manually, where they're like, okay, I know I sent them this email, I generated this list of attendees, I'm physically connecting that into advance, that system, like, you know, we're not doing it natively in one tool, it's requiring a lot of human intervention.
Right, and that's where I would say, piggyback on Marketing Cloud, to all the people who live there.
Yeah.
Even if we're starting light,
Yeah.
when we start integrating social, people are gonna, I think, be confused. Where am I gonna go to look? And then, you know,
And I think the majority of people who aren't doing reporting, don't need to look at individual records, don't need, like, doing the deep dives, probably don't need.
and as long as they access the list, right?
And it's, yeah, and right now that's how we got it set up security-wise.
Well, one of the things I want to think of, though, we've done platform security separate from marketing cloud security, and we have not yet met.
Yeah. And there's a campaign.
Yeah. Well, yeah, campaigns. There's no way around, well, with Marketing Cloud, with any marketing tool, there's no way around not using it. Right?
Yeah.
Is there ever a case where you could use marketing automation or Marketing Cloud without using campaigns?
I don't
Kevin, do you want to,
Take a stab at that, Kevin?
Yeah.
If you could just repeat it, I mean, I'm trying to track along, but just want to make sure I heard the question correctly. But I would be happy to tackle it, though, yes.
Bring Kevin.
If I could have been in Colorado today, I would have happily been on a plane. I just had a series of conflicts, so I apologize.
That's okay. We're just going to bring you closer.
Closer to the people here.
Ah.
There we go. See if that helps. Okay. Go for it. You're in the front row now. All right.
Wonderful.
Oh, do you want to repeat your question to him?
Yep.
What was the question?
Campaigns without
So campaigns, is there ever a time when is it even possible for a Marketing Cloud user to not use campaigns inside of Salesforce?
And what they mean by that is being able to add individual subscribers to a campaign. That's the real issue, correct?
And I think I have a workaround, or Nalini initially, and I think we've kind of fine-tuned it, but using reports, but that's not foolproof.
Because it's the Asian studies example again. If they could, they would email everybody on this campus repeatedly, every day, several times a day. That has strategic relations and other folks understandably nervous. We want to prevent that from happening. We could either not provision them, or we could lock it down in some way. So we're interested in what the Marketing Cloud platform can do in terms of locking down.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think to that extent, you could, and just not I don't have obviously full, knowledge of the internal workings of, who ultimately is going to have those administrative rights. You could have them basically be able to do everything within the Marketing Cloud short of the send, and require the send to be done by an approving, group, entity, individual if you wanted. That's certainly possible. You could restrict them down to where they can, if you want to limit their ability to add users or, any of those things that would, give, people's blood pressure, the possibilities of rising or anxiety, frustration, concern, all of that. You could allow them to build, develop, create, and hold the reins on, subscriber lists, capabilities of actually sending, where that would still have to work through whomever that may be. That's fully capable. You can absolutely do that. I mean, that would, to me, would be a recommendation is you can build and create, but it still has to go through some form of approval process. And at the end of the day, you won't be given free reins to just send ad nauseum, however frequently you want, to whomever you want. It's going to be contained or, not to use the word restrained, but it can be refined in that way so you can put some real definition around what's going on and have clear visibility into that. So you have confidence that the amount of communication going out is appropriate, based on whatever's been defined by, those involved.
Understood. Okay. But otherwise, I mean, we're asking a marketing automation tool to do something inherently unnatural. By definition, it's usually a small group of people who segments and has the full breadth and depth of constituents, leads, what have you. And the requirement for us, particularly with email list management, is counter to that. So we're looking for to meet the requirements of our project team and not constrain the marketing power, because that's one of the reasons we bought these tools. Okay, so moving on. Thanks for being so gracious with letting us derail you, Kevin.
No, honestly, we build agendas for obvious reasons, but at the end of the day, the outcomes that you're trying to derive, the things that are top of mind to you, they're the most important. Me running through an agenda doesn't do anybody any good, obviously, if it's not what you really want to talk about. So that's great. I'm happy to provide insight where I have it and, answer questions or find the answers, like the Preference Center one. That's a great question. Same idea. The governance around Preference Center and how that gets handled is probably top 5 questions I get on a ongoing basis. I mean, it is top of mind for everybody, especially thinking about anything enterprise-wide. It is 100%. I mean, so if you're thinking about that, I would say you're in the right place, because everybody else is trying to figure out the same thing, the best practice. And every university is a little bit different, but it's, that's top of mind. So that one, I'd have to dive into it further to even be able to probably provide any guidance on what I've seen other universities do. But to that extent, I'm happy. I know we've got about 13, maybe 15 minutes left if we run a few minutes over. If there's other things that are top of mind that I can answer in the short term, or at least make note of, I'm happy to try and tackle them. And then, maybe in the last few minutes, we can kind of touch on, for us, what we would define as an outcome or desired goal for a next step, which is a lot in the lines of what we're doing right now, but probably on a broader level over, a longer period of time than even, 1 hour, where we're really, really diving in. Somebody like myself, I would hope to make the trip, be there in front of you, spend, a good chunk of time to really dive into these elements.
Terrific. Okay.
I have a question related to content management. Once again, I'm derailing maybe what was some of the planned discussion for today, but with so many units, so much content that we're planning to push through Marketing Cloud, through both social channels and email marketing. I've looked at Content Canvas, and it seems it would like be a lot of duplication of effort for us in terms of duplicating the content that we have in our CMS in Drupal, as well as then having to port it all into the Marketing Cloud. Not necessarily different than what we do right now, but like I generate all of my emails in our Drupal system and just grab the HTML and plug them into our bulk email right now. So is there a way for us to connect to our already robust CMS and pull content from there so that I can do these kinds of variable messages where I'm doing data-triggered inclusion, but I don't have to build 6 different content blocks every day?
Yeah. I don't know if that was Susan who was potentially looking to answer. Yeah, the answer is yes to that, and I can send some documentation on it at a broad level or a high level of the capabilities. But we can leverage API where you can connect your CMS right into the Marketing Cloud, so potentially relieve some of that duplication or maybe just even more manual work involved. But that's very much a capability. Again, I have a couple universities I'm working with right now. That was top of mind when they're thinking about everything, because they're talking about, we've already got a lot of the work done. We're looking for the platform to execute from, but creation, we've got a good handle on. How do we marry the two together? So through some API calls and capabilities, just with the openness of the platform, that's very much a possibility.
Sweet.
Ooh.
All right.
Thank you. Yes, I know too. Okay. What else?
Yeah, other questions, feel free. I think I probably only need about 5 minutes to kind of frame up what the sort of things that we do is from a workshop perspective where we do that deep dive like I was talking about that I can frame up if there's other questions.
Do you also have client examples of people managing their workflow through the platform, like with sign-offs and approvals and scheduling in multiple channels, where it's a large team working on the same content?
Yeah, I can reach out to a few colleagues that have other higher ed institutions doing that. Yeah, we can absolutely pull that together. I work with generally in about the central part of the U.S., so I've got colleagues on both the west and east. So I'd be happy to reach out to them, and we can certainly pull a list of examples together of groups. Would you be looking to have like a conversation or something to that effect? Would that be the end goal?
I think that would be a great start.
Do you manage that people workflow, or do you not manage it?
We manage it through meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ASU might be a good example there too.
Oh, good. Okay.
All right, Kevin, we'll work on that one together also.
Great. Yeah, if you want, Ed, I'm happy to pop up. I've got a very, very less than 10 slide deck to kind of frame up a future interaction engagement, if that makes sense at this time.
Yep,
wonderful.
We're ready to go.
Perfect. Awesome. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, so one of the things with the Marketing Cloud that we have been doing for a little bit of time, and it's becoming really just core to our work with our both existing clients and those who are considering using our platform. It's really called, it's ultimately called a Spark session. And what a Spark session is essentially a workshop where we're going to spend time really focusing on collaboration, understanding your broad, sweeping, and both granular goals and outcomes. So understanding those digital goals, reviewing existing strategy, processes, procedures, what have you, and then looking at, what's the next 6, 12, 18 months look like? What are we trying to accomplish in that window of time? And from there, we sit there, we work with you, we identify and prioritize what that looks like, and then we begin to map out how are we going to get there. We've defined the current state, we've defined the future state, our goals. What's that look like? What's the tangible roadmap of what that looks like? So for us, that would be a recommendation. When I was speaking with Susan and Ed over the last week, this is something that I think was top of mind for all of us. As something we would love to do with you all. To that extent, who should attend? That would be, I think, probably, I'm sure, everybody that's in the room today, anybody who is looking at this across all of the parties involved or all of the groups involved. As you can see at the bottom, diverse perspectives are better. So being able to provide that kind of big picture view where it makes sense, a broader audience in many respects allows visibility into different things, but we certainly, default to you all in terms of those sort of things. This is just some anecdotal comments of bringing groups together like this and really having these in-depth conversations. So I won't reread them for you, but we've often found that there's kind of light shed as these conversations are being had on a broad level. And then to give you an idea of approach, so this is an approach where we look at, and I meant to reframe this, it says customer, we obviously know this is higher ed, we're often talking about students, so using the verbiage of constituent, but we look at those sort of things. So constituent, how are you interacting with them from that angle? Operationally, how are things functioning? So process, procedures, automations, technology, where is the data residing? Who has ownership, governance, preferences, things like that. And then ultimately, strategy of how are we executing all these aspects? What are we measuring? What's critically important? This is really the approach we take. So we're not kind of coming in and spitballing what we think. We have some really tactical resources around all of these ideas that we bring to the table. From there, this is just an idea of agenda. So diving into all those areas, really understanding the aspects of the strategy being currently, functioning, what it looks like, what's the goal going forward, all of those things. So we dive into each of those areas, looking at prioritization at the tail end. And then from that step forward, essentially what we do, and again, I have resources for all this, so we're not just, ad hoc putting it all back together. We go and we take that information, we digest it, from what we learned from you, and then we come back and we do what we would call almost a read back. So we're taking all the things that we, discussed, mutually agreed upon, what have you, and we're taking all of that framing up, and we're coming back and saying, here's, based on everything we learned, our set of recommendations, and then, really working with all of you to, get agreement on, yep, that's exactly where we want to go, and then start to move forward in that vein of defining even time frames of when different things would be occurring. And really, the whole idea of this is really a partnership. It's an ongoing engagement from our end to be a strategic partner with you all, obviously using our platforms, but that's really the idea. So for a group like yourselves who are already familiar with the platform, you're using it, it's a great place for us to help to provide those resources and have that really strategic collaborative conversation. So for us, this would be, I think, a next step that we would love to entertain with you all and figure out what that timing looks like if it's something that would be of interest to everybody. So that's our Spark sessions in a nutshell. Like I said, less than 10 slides, but that's for us, I think, one of the next steps we would be, ideally looking to take forward with you all.
Thank you. If we do something like that, we'd probably do it in 2 tranches. So we have an enterprise, and then we've got a campus view. Both are critical.
Okay.
But I think trying to get everybody together would just be difficult. We have a more immediate, though, set of tasks that we need a Marketing Cloud brain trust for, and I can take that up with Jill and Ed, and then Kevin, we can rope you in as needed. It's answering some of the architectural questions that we've been wrestling.
One other question.
Yeah, one other question. Okay.
This may be an easy answer.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Sorry, it's common. Org-wide emails, right? Sending on behalf of somebody. Inside of Salesforce, we know how to set those up. It's all or none. You can see it. The person has to approve it. How does that work in Marketing Cloud? And if we set up send on behalf of or org-wide emails, within Marketing Cloud, can we restrict by business unit who can access which emails?
So who can access each email address? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
So that only Aaron can send messages on behalf of President Bruce Benson. We don't want every Marketing Cloud user to be able to do that, or Kim. But I mean, that's the use case. You'll take Phil. Okay.
Right. So that's,
got it.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely going to come back down to profile management or that preference management. I can dive into the. Excuse me.
In Marketing Cloud, Kevin. So it's possible.
I mean, yeah, and it's possible. It's something I would run by a colleague because there's a couple different ways we might potentially be able to tackle that. So, and especially with, it sounds like a group as large as all of yours, there's a couple different sets of functionality. One more basic, but maybe a little bit more manual and providing certain restrictions to everyone versus something that might be a little bit more strategic, even broader than that single use case, like being able to only a few people have authority to send an email from the president, as an example. So yes. I want to dive into that and just make sure I have a few thoughts, but I'd love to run it by one of my solutions engineers as well, just because they've looked at this both from not only a higher ed perspective, but just broadly in general. So I would, if it's all right, I'd be happy to get back to you all on that here, in the next day or so.
That would be super helpful.
Okay.
So it sounds like there's still a few, but I mean, conversations on your end and maybe follow up around.
Oh, it's more than that. So tomorrow, we first need to get on the same page with how security for phase 1 will work in total to meet the requirement of restricting list usage for email and other purposes, right, in Salesforce. We have a second, newer requirement, but same general idea, because Cvent, which is the event management tool that we're using, which we just secured, right, they key everything off of campaign and campaign member. Right. So we can't just allow the Administrative Assist Information Studies to invite everybody in the world to a particular event. So we're trying to solve that. And we want to be clear about what the options are. One. Two, tomorrow afternoon, I need to brief some senior executives on this because people are very nervous here. Because they want, on the one hand, we want to give communicators these set of tools. We don't want people to be doing vertical response and MailChimp and all the other stuff that they've been doing, and the Outlook lists here are insufferable. On the other hand, you know, we need to put some boundaries around it. And what has worked in the past, as I understand it, correct me, is that we've made systemic security provisions rather than business policy ones, which is a more conservative position on the tax, understandably, because there is a lot of reticence. Because if someone opts out, especially if they're a donor, you've lost at a minimum 3 years, but you may have lost them forever. So I can appreciate that our leadership, as well as our marketing teams, our communicators, really don't care. But I also don't want the systems to be so locked down that we are making them unuseful, because our vision is to have more sophistication and to do some of the things that Aaron wants to do and what Matt wants to do. So we're trying to find that line. But we're under the gun now because we're going live shortly.
Right.
And I thought that we had this all covered with our report structure that we worked out together in June, and we have this new thing that cropped up around here.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, did you grab all that? Since I was looking back here at Jill.
I got it.
Okay.
Again, I heard a good chunk, but not the entirety, so I do apologize.
We can catch up after Kevin and Jill.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I will hopefully get the chance to meet you all in person here in the future.
Yeah, get your butt out here.
Yeah, I would love to. It's one of the few states I haven't been to, which is shocking. So I would.
Oh my goodness!
It's
You're not going to want to
overdue.
return to Chicago in the winter. I'll tell you that.
I've heard as much. I have family out in Colorado, so I'm already prepared for that. So yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you all for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin. So I see the agenda here that we have a half-an-hour break.
We do, or we can keep going since Jen is still on the phone if you'd like.
Jen's
Yeah.
still on, so it's.
You want to keep going, Mr. Matt?
Jen, are you
Bathroom
there?
break? 5 minutes?
5 minutes? Sounds good?
Okay.
Well, let's make sure Jen's there.
Jen, you still there?
No, that works. That works. Everybody do their bio breaks, and we'll be back here when you guys are back.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll pass you the ball in the meantime, Jen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ow. I know it's tough when you're.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to know. I thought I told you all. Yay! Thank you. Go get it. Great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean.
I think that the way we do it, I still think it's the right thing. Especially feel, you know,
We've got a separate initiative that is far ahead of the chance to compare to the other. Over and over.
Now, what about the role?
Integration.
Done.
Lots of
Done.
With the market
almost, they're going to be doing, they're going to be training and doing training. Yeah.
Well, I know that they started.
They're on tap, if you have questions, but.
They were supposed to start at 12:30 and didn't post anything about that they, hey, we started. So I wrote to Andrew and Seth. I don't micromanage, just let me know when you're done.
It's possible.
My life.
Yes, I do.
Probably less than power to build up my evil empire to crush you when you don't do what you're supposed to do. I don't know if I want to stay for the next one.
No matter which one more work.
I mean, it might be useful for the engagement thing for 2.0, but.
Well, and the only thing is, the one built this, or
different ad lines to attest on events that I'm not in love with right now because I can't do anything with it.
I'm going to overstep my boundaries because
I don't know, I've got a whole document, but.
Yeah, we can go over it.
I never did anything.
But yeah, whatever the right.
And, yeah.
You have better shoes than she does.
Because you can't go.
We were fine when I was at UIS, when I went to campus.
Well, you can't do that either.
And a couple of times I would go above her head because she would never respond. So I had to go along myself. Yeah. Doesn't like an hour.
Yeah, it's weird. A little bit.
Yeah.
This time I didn't.
Yeah, I'll see her Wednesday. So.
All right, I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't want us to use Jira.
We'll be
Or
on
the
the
data
fire
request.
wall.
I'm like, screw it. I don't go create all of these.
Bye.
Yeah. See you Wednesday.
Nice to meet you. So what are those tickets for?
Jira for the new data, for data reconciliation.
Because when I have one, like where I need a roster reload, you have to show me how to do that.
Not yet. I have to create a whole new.
But I don't put in a Jira ticket, I put in a help at the.
Oh, there he is. She asked for a picture of the dog.
Oh,
Oh.
That was yesterday, I was in a little hike by my house, it's just,
Doesn't he look sweet?
He does, I know, I think Michael just, I had the app up and I was like, oh, how's Ernie? And Michael's like, well, he just bolted, he's like, hopefully we haven't lost that. There he is with my kid, you can see his whole body.
Oh my gosh, oh, he's nice, he's a good
He's
size.
cute, yeah, he's like 50 pounds, it's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I get that a lot. All right, I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Okay.
Easier to manage something, in my opinion. I like Jira. That's easy.
I don't have a Jira login.
Nobody does. Anyway, my campus. It's just more of an ass way if I should ask for everyone to get off the trend. Do that.
When will we be able to do the roster reloads ourselves?
Whenever they create new roles. Took a long time.
Okay.
So long to get. They're going to do it.
Sadness.
Well, the RO approved it. They submitted the JIRA. Added me to the launch service. They have to request for us to have access to those. And then, yeah, I got the email saying that he hasn't completed anything yet.
So here's a question for you. Identity question. Christine Rubin, aka Christine Mahoney. You know who she is? Okay. So she's somebody in CMCI who is not an advisor but helps the advisor something. And so her name is wrong.
Yes.
She's like a different lady. Yeah. Called one thing, but she's actually I'm having a midlife moment.
You can't, they're not an advisor of record.
That's all right.
Recognize you.
You got the W. I mean, in your
Because it won't update.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, well, I figure.
Yeah, great.
Oh my God, like this is the first time I'm like looking at these tickets for months.
Yep.
Kind of gentle, because the team doesn't have the benefit of working with we'll get there.
Hey, that's
And
I think I know.
Well, there's Mahoney and Rubin.
the cool part of what they do is you can
She has
play
two
your-
tickets that are different tickets.
I think it's all this, that's all the, director of digital engagement.
There's another person that does.
Yeah, she's the one that, she's been back and forth for a while.
Just met her.
Oh, advisor display names? Yeah. Okay.
It's the night.
That one cannot change.
What's their heart?
Yeah, letting it midweek.
They're writing it, they're writing it
Yeah,
urgent.
but suck it up with the whole thing.
It's Wednesday. Tuesday, tomorrow night? Tomorrow night. Yep, that's right. Tuesday.
So if we have this other person set up as just an advisor role, not an advisor director.
And I think it's hilarious that, you know, Chabad always does that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chabad is a very beautiful, but they're a sect. You know, there's a sitting.
It's just I had to look
That's,
at
I think it's part of where, and,
So we run the big channel.
my partner, some of the relatives
How
are.
good you
I've got Orthodox relatives, but no one that I know of that's.
Especially if they want to start having.
Darn, I missed out on all the free drinks and all the time. Okay. All right, file break's over. Come on, we got a lot to do. You need 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah.
Nice to meet
I
you.
was struggling yesterday with trying to figure out how to spell Hanukkah. The answer's yes. That's what I figured out. I was like, transliteration. I guess I can. Yeah. Sometimes you see it with 2 Ks, sometimes not.
I spent some time with school yesterday as well.
Yeah. I was like, if I do this,
Hey, Jen.
someone will call me the mom. Oh. Is she already?
You still on a bio break?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
there she
all right, okay.
Me?
Because I think we're.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm here.
I think, are we all here, Melanie? I know.
Mhm.
Okay, I think
The key constituents for
Okay.
this discussion are right here.
I'll let these guys tell you when they're ready to go, but I'm just giving you a heads up. I think we're within 60 seconds of getting started.
Okay, perfect. Can we do, when everybody, Susan is back in the room, can we just go around the room so I know?
Yeah.
Okay, great, perfect. And vice
Let's
versa.
do that. Shall we do that now? Yes. Matt, do you want to start from the center and go clockwise? That's fine.
Okay. Funky design here. Hey, Jen, it's Matt Duncan, from Strategic Relations.
Hi, it's Erin Fraser. I'm the Assistant Director for Campus Communications, and so where a lot of my time is spent is marketing cloud stuff.
Great.
Common, Sweetwine, the panelist, the CRM team.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Melissa Check, and I'm the campus social media manager.
I'm Nalini Indorf-Kaplan. I'm the Director of Enterprise CRM for the university.
Rebecca Langford, I'm a CRM analyst.
And Jeff Ben, I am a Salesforce admin. My second week, so I don't know what's happening.
He's not falling asleep yet.
No.
I
Good.
wouldn't dare. My second week. Third week.
Yeah, you know, it might be iffy, right?
There you go. Welcome aboard.
So
All
we've
right,
been
Jen.
eagerly awaiting Talking Social Studio.
Yay.
Well, Jen's a rock star, too, guys, and she is in the discussion, so looking forward to it. Thanks, Jen.
Well, now the pressure is on. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for introducing yourselves and making the time to be here virtually. I'm virtual. You're really there today. Let me, actually, I was ready to go right into the app, but let me go ahead. I'm going to try having GoToMeeting do what I wanted to do. Okay, what screen are you seeing right now? Is it a Social Studio screen?
It is.
It is.
Oh my gosh, technology is working for me today. That is great. So I'm going to switch screens really quickly, but as I'm doing that, I'm going to just say that you can probably already tell, but I work with Salesforce.org in the customer success organization, and it's called the Customer Success Group. And so generally, I am working with customers who are Marketing Cloud customers and also Salesforce.org customers. So I do support both higher ed customers and nonprofit customers, which may seem like, oh, that's a lot of, as very specific verticals to be supporting. But actually, especially on the digital side, you as verticals have evolved slightly differently in a very complementary way. So I get great ideas from nonprofits who are really doing cool stuff with like content generation, and then I'm able to feed that back into higher ed when they have those types of questions. And then higher ed is doing some super cool stuff with metadata application on the research side for social, and I'll bring that back to nonprofits. So it's really complementary and incredibly interesting for nerds like me, and potentially some nerds like you in the room. But I'm really, really glad to be here, and I will be, let's see here. Aha, yes. I will be talking today about Social Studio success. Now, to set it up, I did speak with Matt last week, and we discussed, I ran by this agenda as what we're going to be going through today. So one, we'll be talking a little bit about operating excellence. I've done a little bit of a look at how you're using at a very high level. Oops, let's say I'm going to continue working. High level, how you're using Social Studio today. I'll just be giving you some ideas of things that you can be thinking about as you move forward, and also where to go to get the answers and the support that you need. I'm going to stay high level here because I know it feels like we have all the time in the world, but it will fly by. But I will follow up with resources after today's call. So you can bookmark and make notes of those processes. Then we'll talk about best practice recommendations for the higher ed vertical. It's my particular kind of soapbox that I stand on when I'm talking to customers that are saying, how are we going to do this campus-wide? How are we going to do this and be as efficient as we can? How are we going to do this and be able to show the impact of our digital efforts? How do we stay safe with our brands? And anything that's resonating, we can explore. Anything that you're like, Jennifer, this doesn't make any sense to me, we don't want to talk about it, we'll move past that. Totally interactive, so don't feel, I already know I don't have to say this because I was on the last call, but please just direct me if I'm going off course. And then I got a list of questions that are product-specific questions that I'm ready to talk to at the end of this call. And then hopefully we'll be right up against, hopefully we'll have done a great interactive session. We'll be right up against time, and we'll talk about maybe getting together for a precision engagement to talk about workspace strategy as a working meeting in an upcoming call. Does this all sound like a good plan?
Good to me.
Okay.
All right.
For Matt, Melissa, for us. Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay. So what I did first was I took a look at your Social Studio entitlements, your edition that you have, and then all I can see, I can't see any data, but all I can see is kind of the folded up usage, how you're using the product today. And what I looked at was 2015 year to date. I put an asterisk there, and I'll talk to you about why that asterisk is there. But just talking about what your entitlements are and in all of the kind of high-level key areas, and then how you're doing over here. And I think I had more than just a number sign before, but I guess I overwrote that. But for mentions are your social, the net that you're casting using topic profiles or listening. Mentions, your entitlements are, I believe, 250,000 a month. And I'm seeing a humongous uptick in the last 3 months on usage when I look at historical usage. And I'm going to talk about how to review this and even send some resources out afterwards. This is most likely, especially when I see an uptick like this, it's either a research in higher ed, it's either a research project that is time-bound and people just need to get they're casting a pretty wide net, so mentions have gone up, or it's folks that are creating net new topic profiles or redundant topic profiles, and an audit done by you guys can really easily clear that up. And also, generally with an audit, which is where I like to start with anytime there's an overage, an audit will show you, hey, this is what I really like about our process today, and this is what I'd like to see evolve in our process today for, say, topic profile creation or maintenance. Any questions on the idea of an overage in mentions?
No, but I'd love to learn more about the audit and what you're mentioning.
Yeah.
You're going to get.
I'll send you, it's okay, so just a caveat, it's totally lo-fi funk. It's something that I use and give to customers. It's not branded. I've made this, although I'm realizing as I'm telling you this, I've made that excuse for a pretty long time. So I think it's probably time to get marketing to help me tweak it and make it something that I don't feel like I have to apologize for. But just know it's good information. It's just not as pretty as, you know, like everything else that Salesforce does. But absolutely, we'll provide that to you. Then, yeah, so I have that in red because you don't want to have an overage for a number of different reasons, but one of the reasons that you really want to stay within your mentions is because when you try to do cool stuff with extended attributes, your insights information, and if you don't know what this is, then I'll send you information on that. But your insights are like your demographics. How old are the people that are talking about this particular topic? What are their genders? Generally, where are they? That type of insights are only available up to your mentions threshold. So certainly it can break maybe the next person that wants to create a topic profile and do any listening, because your org will be in an overage situation. So this is why I'm saying you should be running, you know, wanting to stay between 75 and 85% on a blue sky when everything is going well, so you have a little bit of headspace to have a peak. When you see this kind of an overage, you just know it's time to start thinking of what's our audit strategy. And generally, once you start auditing, you'll start loving it and you'll do it. I recommend, I'd love to see everybody doing it monthly, but I recommend a quarterly audit as a regular practice. Seats are how many people do you have using the tool? Now you have 1,000 seats available to you. You don't have 1,000 users. That's fine. The reason I see this as green is because seats are not necessarily where the value of the tool is. So if I don't see a ton of users, that's fine. As long as I see that you've got mentions and topic profiles, I know you're in the tool, you're using the tool. And when I see social accounts configured, which is your brand handles that you have configured, you're using 70% of what's available to you, I feel very good that at least you're doing your own analyze of your social accounts, or you're also using Social Studio for publishing, which is good. This is why you have the tool. You should definitely be trying to maximize your use of it. Any questions on seats, social accounts, or topic profiles?
What's the 14% on the topic profile?
Just how many, just number of topic profiles you have configured. You have 100 that are available to you, meaning live active topic profiles. You have 100 that are available to you. If you ever needed to have more than that, first of all, it's kind of an administrative nightmare. I work with a number of very, very large organizations, and when I see they start getting closer to that, if I saw you were at around 80% of 100, I would say this is really, and you don't have an audit strategy, I would say this is really, really where you want to get into auditing this. Because if you have 3 people that have all created, let's say, a CU topic profile, you will, unless the terms are exactly the same, you're going to start getting some aversion to the data because the results will be different, the counts will be different across different topic profiles. So I like to see a smaller number of topic profiles, especially when I know it's a low number of users. It tells me you're not just creating them and leaving them running, so that's good.
Cool.
Yeah, Social Hub Actions. It's not something that's available in your current edition. Social Hub Actions is the rules engine to do automation, say transformation of posts or automatically sending posts to service desk. Right now, it's not something that you have an entitlement for, but this is where we got into the idea, and I'll show you this like we talked about a little bit earlier. The idea of, hey, if we wanted to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Jen, that would be automated notifications to a service desk. So that's something that we could do, for example, if we needed to attend to a student who was in trouble or complaining about, had a legitimate complaint that we wanted to tend to.
Right.
Do I have that right?
Right. That's right. That's automatically. Now, you can still do that today, send one or many posts to Service Cloud if using Social Studio. A person sees a post that they want to send to Social Studio because that's how it should be handled as a case, to let Service Cloud do everything great that Service Cloud does and send it directly, you know, through the escalation paths you can absolutely do that today. It does take configuration. I do recommend that you partner either with our strategic services or with your partner that has good experience with Service Cloud integration. Now, the integration is built, right? So it's called Social Customer Service. That integration is already built, and it's very, very good. The reason I say I like having a service provider, somebody that's done it before, do it for you, is because there is some ability to transform some of the apex that comes in that package to make it work for you. React to the metadata that's been applied to the post and transform the post in a way that makes the most sense for working with it in Salesforce.
Understood.
Yeah.
The only bummer is we use a different support tool for IT support currently, but maybe we will use something unique for student success. It's something that we've been kicking around. So ServiceNow on Boulder and 3 different instances of Sharewell for the other campuses because for the University of Colorado.
I have a really basic question. Social Studio is the same as Radiant 6?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that question. Do you want to talk about that? Let's talk about that. So, so somebody brought it up earlier. Milani, am I pronouncing your name right? Correct? Am I doing that?
Malini. Zucchini.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. I think it was you who brought it up, saying, "Hey, we've acquired a number of different products, and now we're knitting them together." Was that you, or do I have that wrong?
Yep, that was Milani.
Oh, great. So that's essentially the Social Studio really was born of acquisition. We acquired Radiant 6, then we acquired Buddy Media, 2 best-of-breed tools, which were really point solutions. One of them focused on listening, which was Radiant 6, and one of them focused on publishing. However, they both had overlapping capabilities. Engagement was in both. The ability to do publishing, you could do not scheduled, but publishing out of Social Studio, and we found that our customers really wanted a more unified experience. As you guys know, you want to really work as efficiently as possible. So that's where the Social Studio was really born from. Radiant 6 is still the listening engine behind Social Studio. And eventually, and we'll talk about timing on this when we get into the Q&A, but eventually you will see that there's only a single unified login. And in fact, topic profiles that you create today, you can create either in Social Studio or Radiant 6. So Radiant 6 is still the heart and soul of the listening engine and the engagement engine of Social Studio, but eventually there will only be one UI, and that will be user interface, and that will be Social Studio.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah, and then but just to be clear, Social Hub actions are for automations, getting back to this, what's on the screen, and if you did want to start sending to, say, Salesforce, or doing transformations and then sending to Salesforce, and I'll show you this when we get into the tool, you can do that today just using a person instead of an automated send. So we'll talk about that. And then web analytics, I see this if you're not using it today, and I don't know that you're not, but if you're not using it today, this is another one of those areas where I really want you to consider using web analytics to be able to understand your social efforts, how they go from publish all the way through to convert, whatever your call to action or your point of convert is. So this is one of those things that we'll be talking about today, but it is available to you, and I want to make sure that you understand it's available to you. So this was just a high-level review of your entitlements and then where you stand as I see it, just out of having just met you, but taking a look at how you're using the tool. Any questions on this? Was this helpful information?
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, any questions before we move on? Okay. So where to go? To get the answers and support that you need. Okay, so I just said in the last page, hey, Marketing Cloud was born of acquisition, which means there were all these different places that you could go for each tool to get help. And then we started Marketing Cloud started folding itself together and coming together to better serve our customers. And as a result, things started shifting, and it's a little bit wonky. And I understand if you have a hard time finding the resources that you need for Marketing Cloud, you are not alone. They are actively working to make it easier for you, but just to speed it up, I went ahead and created a little table you can use for a cheat sheet. There's a success community that is available to you. It's so there's a lot of Salesforce users, or you know, we've got the CRM lead, the CRM analyst, and admin in the room. So you have access with the Salesforce login to the success community. Social users at this point are still using ungated, you don't have to log in, success community resources. I have provided those to you here, and this is the first place that I would go. And this is really help and training for the Marketing Cloud. And this specifically is for Social Studio. So I highly recommend that you bookmark this site and use it all the time. The social team has done a tremendous amount of work. Did you guys know this existed, by the way? It's fair to say you didn't.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so I don't know when the last time you were out here, but the social team is really, really working hard to make this better all the time. And they are serious when they say, hey, was this helpful? And if not, please tell us why. If you just support, and I don't know why this is coming through to me in Portuguese, but this is, so this part's not so helpful if you don't read Portuguese, but this is on the bottom of each one of those pages, and really do submit this. The documentation team gets it, and I've seen stuff that I wanted changed and sent emails out, or this form out, and they have changed things within the day. So I really do recommend that you give your feedback and don't hold back on this type of information if it's helpful, if it's not. But this is where you go for help. So you knew that existed. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Support email is, as Premier customers, Marketing Cloud Premier at salesforce.com. Did you know about this for logging cases?
No.
Great. Okay, why do you log a case? So you would log a case anytime you're seeing something in Social Studio or not seeing something in Social Studio that you believe is an anomaly. So if you get something that, hey, I really think I should have seen engagement on this particular post and I'm not seeing engagement, can you take a look at it? I mean, you could email me, but I'm just one person. You could email your, Susan or Ed, but they're just really one person. Always get the clock ticking with support by contacting them via email and logging the ticket that way. You'll automatically get a case number coming right back to you, and the clock starts ticking on your support level ELAs. So definitely, this is your support email. Please use it. If it's something where you wanted to dial in, you're absolutely free to do that. And this is the number here, and it'll take you through a couple of prompts, not a bunch, that sounds bad, but a couple of prompts to make sure you get to the right place with the right people. You can.
Do they need a Premier code? Do they need a Premier code like on the Sales Cloud and Service Cloud side?
I don't believe so, but I will, let me take that as a takeaway just to make sure. I don't believe so, because it's in the entitlements, and the whole back end is different, but let me put a pin in that and say, I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure. And then next thing, you can reach out to mCloud support on the tweetsies. They will generally direct you can direct message, and it depends. You can totally do that, but I think this is a way more direct way to do this, because you can send your by sending the email, because you can send your screenshots, which I highly recommend, and any supporting information directly in. For historical data requests, I don't know, I bring this up because I don't know if people know that you can do this. You guys probably are all over this, but if you say needed to get a topic profile, when you initially create a topic profile, you automatically get the last 30 days of history. It's just there for you when you create that topic profile and hit save. If you need more than that, let's say you need the last 6 months of history, you can absolutely request that to be delivered. You just need to create a ticket by opening a ticket, and then give them your name. Oops, sorry, I'm getting too excited with my clicking. The tenant, which is up, it's in. I'll show you actually where you can find it. But it's essentially your instance name, and I'll show you how to find that in Social Studio. And then the topic profile IDs. I prefer IDs, especially if you don't have audits in place. So it's very, very exact which ones they'll open history for, and I'll show you how to get that. I don't know if you can do this, but especially if you're trying to do research, it's really, really important that you know that's available. Most data goes back to 2007, so don't feel bad about opening it up. And then training and product video content, there's the YouTube channel, and there's an actual Social Studio channel that you can follow to get new release information. In fact, last week, the new, I think it was last week, the new release webinar was published to the YouTube channel. Great stuff, and a great way, if you miss the webinar, that you can stay in the know on what's been delivered. So any questions on any of this stuff about where to go to get the answers and support you need? Great. Was any of this new info? I hope so. Maybe not. Okay, I'm going to move quickly then. Let me bring something up right now. There's Matt brought up, hey, I really want to know if we were going to go, like if we were going to have to support rolling to a larger group, or how do we know that we're really doing a good job by, creating a strong foundation from which to spring? And I said, let me talk to your account team and find out if, how they think about this. What I recommended is your account team can create an internal process if you have a very, that's a pretty, low lift, tactical, we can quickly get on the phone, review what's happening, and then give you some ideas to go forth from. It's not what I would call a real services engagement. It's really just a discussion. Hey, a sanity check. Are we missing something? Are we leaving something out? Is there something we should be considering to build a stronger foundation? Your account team can create an internal process to have you get some strategic support. So it's not really marketing cloud support. It's a strategic team called the Precision Engagement Team, internal to the Marketing Cloud. If there's something that's vertically specific, you'll get usually somebody from the foundation team. In this instance, it would be me. So for that question on, hey, is our workspace strategy on point, or do we need to consider anything before we expand it, or before we grow, or before we really roll out wider? I can schedule, after this call, I'll schedule some time out with you and the right folks to just get in, have screen share, look at what you've done, address your questions, and I think in an hour and a half, we can make great headway on that. So that's the third caveat that I should probably have put down here. If we need an additional discussion, what do you do? The answer is contact your AE. Contact Ed and make sure that he gets a kind of the story of what you're looking for, and then he can put it into the right hands internally with the right folks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I kept this very bullet pointy because I'm going to support it by jumping into the tool. But we talked about in the agenda, we're going to really think through some of the best practice recommendations for higher ed. What do I see? What do I hear from folks as they start to think about moving from, sometimes there's one team and they're thinking about expanding it to 2 or 3, and sometimes there's 5 schools and then they want to roll it out campus-wide. And communications is acting as that kind of center of expertise, and how do we do that is usually the question. So these are some pillars that I see as really, really important to keep in mind as you're considering the maturation of your digital practices across campus. One is, and this is at the top of my list, and it's at the top of my list and at the bottom of most customers that I work with. I don't think that it will be forever, but right now people don't get how important this is, but this is what I mean when I say define a shared taxonomy. What I mean is when you're applying tags, whether it's publishing labels or post labels for wide listening posts, or author tags, say tagging a social account as a prospective student, a student, an alum. Having every user in the system understand what those labels and tags are and how to use them in a standard way. And the reason this is so important to me today for all higher educators is because in my mind, these silos, these standalone digital practices will not exist in a year, maybe 3 years. Year to 3 years, all of the systems will be talking to each other.
Understood, and it goes beyond your shared taxonomy. We need basic business processes and definitions that we do not yet have as a shared entity. Starting with, how do we define a lead? What is the minimum data for a lead? How do we convert a lead to a contact? When do we archive a contact? Do we ever?
That's right.
And it goes on and on and on and on.
That's
Values
right.
for fields, which we used to concatenate. We've been very clever and making a single field have multiple uses, which drives data management people crazy.
That's right. Insane.
So,
nightmares.
Here. And what are you guys finding? Do you have this yourselves now? Here for Boulder?
Yeah, so we're using a pretty basic sort of definition right now of alumni, student, athlete, student affairs, enrollment services, some things like that. So the idea was we would be able to pull data based on that, which was one of our questions because I haven't actually figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that for sure. But I've got that question. But that's great to hear you say you've started. That's important. Because you're in your moment, and I know you're thinking downstream, which is terrific, and you've got a great cross-functional team brought together. The way that is less painful in a year or 2 years, or whenever you take that project on, is by having that structured data applied, and having it mean something to everybody. So that's fabulous that you're starting, and you can grow from there as your user, and you'll need though. So the two things really that go hand in hand, that taxonomy and then that engagement framework. When you're applying, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question. To what extent can Boulder forge ahead, because they're really ahead of the curve, I think is a fair statement, in the social space? Or, would you recommend that we need to begin conversations now so that even if Boulder is the vanguard, we have it be shared across all 4 campuses? Or is this, do we encapsulate it based on a brand, and therefore each campus could have its own for this purpose? Because we do not have a common definition for what is a student.
I know.
We do not have a definition for what is an alum, let alone these other wonderful suggestions that people have had. So I want to strive, have our team as a community of excellence strive towards the goals that we want to reach, and also deal with the practical realities on the ground, so that Matt and Melissa and others can still make some headway here, as I help with others bring the campuses all together, which is new and different.
That's like the question for the ages, but I do think that you don't wait for everyone. You might for your early adopters, and let me say this, any group that's using the tool should understand what the labels are there to be and should work within those structures. Else, it dilutes the value of the reporting for the tenant as a whole. So it's not to say they can't add additional, but I think that there does need to be a process around when you add something, how do we know what it means, really, school-wide, so when we do tenant-wide reporting, it's meaningful to us at the same level of depth. But I certainly don't think that you wait until necessarily the entire campus, non-users and users of the tool, have gotten a consensus. I've seen schools that do that. And it takes a super long time. It takes a year, right? It takes a year to get everybody to talk to each other, then to, yeah, exactly, exactly. Maybe it's more than a year. I was being nice, but yeah. So don't wait to do it, because it will hamper your ability. The accelerated folks who are already thinking and using the tool and thinking about what's next, it hampers your ability to get to the what's next if you haven't figured out the structure of both the taxonomy and the engagement framework.
Okay.
Yep. And I think you'll be informed by net new users as they come on, or net new kind of constituents to that center of expertise. They will bring great questions to you and add a richness to the tapestry that becomes that engagement framework. It doesn't mean you have to unweave the whole thing. It might just be you're layering in net new facets, or making, and it's the same thing in CRM, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't get frozen in the headlights of what might the next user base ask for. You go for the 80% of your current user base, but you have to make sure it's extensible. Don't get yourself locked in. Don't make it binary. Really make it flexible by leaving yourself open for growth. And the tool does that as a general rule. Social Studio is incredibly flexy to allow for that. It's just, I would say, don't get too granular on your tags that you would have to undo things, as you have people that are, you know, have an aversion to the idea of the student definition.
All right.
Okay, so then we've already talked about the topic profile and listening audits. Obviously, it's in my top 3 on my best practice thing. Why is that? Because you will find stuff that you're like, oh, I didn't even know that was happening. So if you start to do it regularly, it just becomes a lighter lift for you, and you are protecting the budget. You're protecting the budget of the school's you know, digital practice, and allowing yourself to be spending money in better places, like, say, the automation, the social hub for automation, or protect, you know, moving stuff into Service Cloud. So really make sure that what you're catching is actionable information that you need.
Even though we've already destroyed the budget by 1,100% that we didn't.
Well, I mean, this is why, with all the love of my heart, I say start this practice now. It's easier when you have this number of users than when you have double that or triple that. Yeah. Yeah, and then the idea also to protect the brand further, and this is like gonna feel, this feels to people that are out there today not using Social Studio, and they just own the handle, whatever, in the name of the brand and the name of the school, they own the handle though. This will feel uncomfortable, but where people shouldn't have, first of all, once you start managing your social accounts within the tool, everybody doesn't always have every single, you know, password that's out there. So you're already putting in some reputation management and auditability just by, you know, managing social accounts in the tool. The second thing is make sure that people that need to have publishing approval as they're coming up to speed in the voice of the brand, or guest publishers, can submit and put together the content, but maybe can't actually put it out on live channels until it's reviewed. Publishing approvals, are you using it today?
We are.
Yeah, that's a big place for us.
Great, then I'm not going to harp on it, you know. And then also exploring as they evolve the user permissions capabilities within workspaces are very good, can get very granular and pretty easy to do, but just from a center of expertise, being able to make recommendations as you bring on new workspaces, new teams, to who should be able to publish, who shouldn't be able to publish, and how do you decide that? So how to give guidance to your end users on who should be able to have the keys to publish, engage in the voice of the brand. So my other spotlight, reporting. We're going to spend time on reporting, but web analytics, huge, huge, huge. If you are not using your publishing capability to add in web parameters for web analytics, play around with it today. It's huge. It's very, very, very strong for you, because it will get you out of vanity metrics and get you right into converts, which is huge. And convert can be anything. Convert can be whatever the point of, you know, this is our goal of the campaign in Google Analytics. Are you using Google Analytics today for web analytics?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you'll see, you could use custom parameters as well, but all the Google Analytics, are you using the publishing web parameters in Social Studio today?
Not yet. It's been on my list. We're just sloppy on it right now.
Totally. But I'm gonna show you because it's super. I love it, and it's one of those areas where by the way, you're not alone. That's why I knew to put it on the list. Just huge to be able to show the benefit of digital. It's very easy to say how many followers, how many fans, how many likes. None of that matters unless you can say so what. And this will help you guys get to that much more quickly without leaving the tool. Yeah. Which is really putting the tool through its paces, and that's really what you're here to do, is to be the ones on campus that understand this is how you really put this thing through its paces. Then I'm going to show you shared content and asset standards. Again, this is just you thinking through. This is kind of tool agnostic, but I do want to show you how strong it is in the tool. In our tool, sharing content to be ready for, say, emergency announcements, branded announcements. This is something that can be incredibly, incredibly strong in higher ed, and I really would love to see you exploring this as a way to be ready ahead of any one of the striations in your engagement framework, emergencies, weather. You can push content out and have it available for all workspaces with the right information at the right time for use during a particular time frame. I love shared content. I see it as underutilized feature. Really, really think it's strong for higher ed. And then asset standards. Where do you get your you talked about this actually in the Marketing Cloud. I can show you some stuff in Social Studio. Where do we get our content from? What are the standards? And how do you really put this again through its paces as well? And then it sounds like you're already on this, but forming a social center of expertise, having people that are the people that do this all day, every day, which is a very small handful, getting great information and giving great information to the rest of the lots and lots of people that act in the voice of the school for 1 to 5% of their time, and they just don't have that level of savvy that you do, the folks that do this every day. So those are this is my stump speech, right? This is what I really want to see all higher eds thinking about, and I love that you're excited about the first two. That's huge. That's great. And some of these are more tactical than strategic, but I think if you have a team that's working in some degree in every single one of these areas, you have a team that knows how to listen, how to maximize their budget, how to analyze and show your conversion and you show your worth, and in a secure, brand protected digital practice. That's huge. So those are the things I like to think about when I'm thinking about excellence. Any questions on this stuff? Okay.
No question.
Great. So quickly, I want to just go into the tool and just show you a couple of those things. I'm going to go into the communications workspace. This is a demo org, so it's not going to be highly, oh, it generally is a demo org. It's not going to be highly customized, but definitely want to show you a couple of things. And maybe I won't be able to log in. Wouldn't that be awful?
Gotta be in Portuguese.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, my fingers are crossed. Aha!
Carlos.
Okay. Good.
Girl from or Gingy.
Oh, I'm going to go back actually here. Let's get rid of this. So here I am in my calendar for my communications workspace. One thing that I do want to highlight, just because we talked about it last, is shared content. Again, shared content, I can share, well actually, yeah, I can share to one or many workspaces. This one's shared with 5 workspaces. I can time gate it, saying it can't be used before, it can't be used after. And I then get history on all of the different workspaces, and you can start to see like where did this do well on what channels, and I can use it again on one or many different platforms. I love shared content, and it's as easy as just picking up something that you've created and saying I'm going to go ahead and share this content. Oops, let me go back here. I'm going to use this content again. by sharing it, and it gives you the opportunity to share it to one or many workspaces. And I'm going to go ahead and share it to all 5, and then you can see I apply it, and then I can set an enable date if I want. I can set a disable date. I can add comments on usage, and I just absolutely think that this is a great way to get, you know, great stuff out there that you want to be able to share quickly and have available, and then get metrics back directly within the tool. Any questions on how much I love shared content? I think I've made it super clear.
So do you love shared content too?
I love shared content. Good, we've established. Okay, and then the other thing is duplicating a post. So here, let's pretend I've just created this post. I can also duplicate it in the moment without sharing it. If I want to say, you know what, I'm doing this on Twitter, but gosh, I got to put something on Google+, so this is a great way to feed Google+. I just clicked Google+. I say add it to one or many of my configured accounts, and then change up my content however I want. Change up my appearance if I need to, and then, you know, schedule it, whatever, and, you know, shorten it or don't shorten it. For Google+, probably don't shorten it. And then this is what I wanted to talk to you also. Remember, I just clicked one button and I put it on a different platform, basically. The other thing is these parameters for web analytics, these came over because I had them configured for my last post that I was sharing from. But here's what you need to know. When you're creating a net new post, you'll get the opportunity to just either share your Google Analytics parameters or other, you know, configured parameters for other web analytics tools, or custom. You can just add custom ones if you'd like, right? Then what you get from here is the ability to apply. You'll see down here, this is my URL, my new URL. Well, this will be added to my URL. These are all my UTM tags. Then you can use this to understand, for my conversion, what workspace did it come from, on what social channel, and what were the tags that were used, the labels. And this is why that taxonomy is so important. You can also do conversion reporting based on labels. If you're using labels for campaigns, you can absolutely get, how did my conversion rate work for this campaign to that campaign, and across workspaces. I love web analytics parameters within the tool. So check it out. It's fairly new. I mean, maybe the last 3 releases. It's huge and really, really good, and it makes your life easier if you want to get conversion reporting. The other thing that I wanted to show you was, let's see, shared content, asset standards. Oh, this is something that you may or may not be using. I'm trying not to, I'm going to ask you, are you using today the apps, getting content from apps in Social Studio?
No, we don't get content from external apps that much, but I was at a session or saw it somewhere where you can do that to plug into a shared server.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do, because we email so many images back and forth in this place.
Yeah, stop that. That's awful. That's a terrible, and you're not alone, right? But if you can make it easier for yourself, do make it easier for yourself. So absolutely leverage this for sure. You can do custom. You can also do Salesforce files, right? So this is already configured in, and I've already plugged in my username and password. I do it one time, and then it's there, right? It's already done. If you have access to Salesforce files, it really depends. What does it depend on? It depends on the security model that you need. If you don't want maybe your if you don't want to give a Salesforce license to, say, someone in an agency, then you go, okay, maybe Salesforce files isn't the way for us to go. We'll have a custom configuration of, say, Box, or whatever your data asset management would be. So definitely check it out. The other thing is, to make it easier on your life, is to do an RSS feed. To say you have a blog or any kind of content, you just type in the RSS feed URL into the text box, and then you'll get that feed, or feeds if you do many, that you can then link the blog post or whatever directly from within the tool. You don't have to keep a matrix somewhere else. Now you can just put the blog feed right here. Again, this is about working smarter, not harder. Totally, it's there, use it. Does everybody use it? No, they don't. But that's why I want you to make sure you know about it, because the tool changes. It's a 6 to 8 week release cycle. The tool changes all the time. It's a lot to keep up with, so it's important that you do these little refreshers every once in a while. Just look at the last release and see what you could, what you could use to kick it up to 11. The other thing I wanted to point out, and some of these, you may notice some of these are answering questions that you asked. So I'm trying to kill a couple of birds with one stone because I'm very, very cognizant of the time and I don't want to get in trouble. How are we for time? Is everyone okay right now?
We're okay, since
Okay.
we shortened our break. And this is for Melissa and Matt and Aaron.
Great. Is this helpful stuff that we're going through, folks? That I'm trying to stick within kind of your questions as well. Does this make sense for how to spend our time?
It does, yes.
Okay, great. Some questions came through on reporting. We're going to go into them, but one thing that I want to show you that you may or may not know is that you can create dashboards now on Instagram, which is new. So just know that's available now to you. So when you configure your social account, your Instagram social account, you can, I don't have one configured, and oh, yes I do, but there won't be anything there. I haven't posted anything in forever. You can configure it in the moment. It's going to pop up your account summary here. This is, yeah, see, there's nothing, I haven't really done anything there, it's just demo, but this will show your feed, your volume, your posts over time at a high level. So it's going to look like your other dashboards that you create that are social account dashboards. One thing that you can be aware of is you need to really get familiar with, and I'm providing you the information on this after the call, but you need to really get familiar with how these high-level dashboards differ across platforms, because they do. It just depends on what the engagement and the engagement metrics that are available via that platform's API. So just understand, you will see that they're slightly different. Only maybe if you're really comparing them, that would you notice, but certainly you need to know the differences if you're trying to convey what that means back to the people that care in the institution. So just know that that is available on Instagram. And before I jump into your specific questions, I'm kind of going to toggle screens. Was there anything that you saw that I was showing you that you wanted to do a deeper dive on before we jump into your questions?
You just made me remember one quick question I had is for the dashboards, is there a way to export those?
Coming soon, coming soon. I don't know exactly when. I didn't look at the timing on that, but there will be. There isn't today. But what is happening today that you may or may not be aware of, let's see. What is happening today, and let's see if I have anything here. Yeah, is the ability to now export as CSV. So if you want to take something and slice and dice it further, you can. And same thing with your engagement rates, your posts over time. Your sentiment over time, you can export that as a CSV. If you want to take a picture of this, it's still, down to doing a screenshot of it, of the widget. Okay. That is going to change, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that will change. But long story short, you will be able to export this. I don't know, did you ever use the summary dashboard tool in Radian 6? No.
No.
Yeah, that's fine. You're going to have capabilities to send this out to yourself, essentially, or to send it out to an email if you wanted it exactly this way. But what's coming that you'll really like, and this goes to your questions, is essentially the final knitting together, which is listen, right? And they call it explore in this tool. So you have publish, engage, and analyze, and then you're going over to Radian 6 if you need to do any deeper exploration of themes. That will be called explore in this tool, and we're looking at a Q1 2016. So in the next few months, you'll see that tab show up, and that'll be the final knitting together of Radiant 6 and Social Studio.
Cool.
Yeah, and I like the way they've executed on it too, because remember when you used to, did you ever work in Radiant 6 at all?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so you know how you would create like your widget on your analysis dashboard, and then you'd create either a copy of that or a net new widget, but you couldn't really see the relationship.
Yes.
In the future, it ties them together, so you see the relationship. There's a join there, and you can see that join. And I'm sorry I don't have it enabled in this. I'm actually, now you're reminding me, I should get it enabled in here so I can just demo it. When you see that join, you go, oh, okay, so I understand the time frame and that this information is coming from this particular widget or component on my workbench. Very, very good. And as a practitioner, as someone that comes from being a practitioner, that was one of my key gripes with the analysis dashboard, was I didn't know how each widget related to each other, or if they did. So that's coming Q1, hashtag safe harbor of next year. So let's get into your questions here. Okay, I'll send you all of the supporting documentation, but just I wanted to ask a question on this. You said you can't pull a report by label on the posts. Are you talking about published posts or posts that you caught by listening?
Generally published posts.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I just didn't want to, I want to be exact. So you can. This is how you do that. So you would go into publish, and you would go into your performance, and you would say, I want to see, I don't, again, this is a dismal space for you to be looking at this. But if I show my filters, I can see everything, so just because I did that kind of fast, you click on your show filters over here, and then you absolutely can start filtering down by labels. So you can put your labels in. Let's see, I don't remember what, yeah, whatever labels you're applying, you can absolutely match by your labels. You can say any, meaning any of the ones that are in this list, or you can say all of them. They have to have all of those labels. You can also match by, you can filter by media type, by date range. You can filter down by just one or many accounts. And let me get back over here. This is also super important. When you go, let's just pick a Facebook account. This is something that people use the tool a long time and they don't get it, and I want to make sure you get it. So you can filter by media types, but you can also filter by when you say export, you can export all of this information on the page. But when you go into performance reporting, so when you really are looking at performance reporting for, say, I don't know, I'm gonna pick Facebook. You can definitely change what you're exporting by Facebook. So I'm going back here, or any one of your platform types. You can say, I just want to see, oops, guys, sorry about that. I just want to see what was dark, what was visible on the time frame, and then this is all of your column settings. You can see everything. You can see engagement. You can see video views and time spent. Make sure you're using these filters to get exactly the information that you want: reach, organic versus paid, fan versus non-fan, that kind of information. So a lot of people don't necessarily know that this is here. So you just get whatever the standard view is, and you're like, where's my workflow? Where's my information? So this is how you get to all of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so does this show, so if we have accounts that are split out into separate workspaces, but they all exist within the workspace that I'm in right now, I think nobody else is using labels, would I be able to see them from everybody if everybody was using them?
That's a great, you know what, that's an amazing question. Okay, so short answer, I don't know. I don't know if what you're seeing there is only for that workspace, you're saying if a workspace, if a post originated from another workspace, would I see it in that workspace's performance reporting?
If all of the accounts are in, so we have like a master workspace, and then we have it broken out as well by departments. And so in that master workspace, can I pull labels that, if we're using the same label, the same taxonomy across all of those workspaces, would I be able to see all posts related to that label?
So that is such a good question. I think the answer is I don't know. For using the click path that you just described, but the way that you can do that, okay, I'm going to explore that other way because I'm desperate to know now, but the way that you can do that for all workspaces is to go to performance right here, and this is only for your super users or your admins, right? But you go to performance right here and you can see all of the reports.
Okay.
This is across workspaces. This is for the tenant.
Got it.
Okay. Now, again, your users of a particular workspace that don't have access to this, because they're not super users, they can't do that. Only the people that should have this performance, which is tenant-wide performance, have it. But I'll get the answer for you on the all posts versus just my workspace posts question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think I don't want to guess. All right, I don't know. Good question. So that's the answer of label on post. Yes, you can. You want to be able to pull reports by workflow. This is more about if a person needs to have a post approved, we want to be able to pull by that individual rather than by account. Oh, I was thinking, I get that now. You're talking about for your scheduled posts.
Right, so if we have a student worker that's scheduling posts for us, generally in one account but may sometimes end up in another, just to see how those are performing so that we can give her feedback. So it's by author, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so not like what's pending approval, but what's already happened.
Right, correct.
Yeah, definitely. The filters are your friend. Use filters for that. Same thing. You're going to show your filters, and I believe, see, you can't get it here. So you gotta do it for oh, it might only be actually on calendar. Yes, you can. I'm going to give you, in a follow-on, I will give you the actual information on how to do that, but certainly you can do all of your authors here, and I will get you the way that you can, and this is against, you know, your published stuff, and I will give you the rightest way to do it for performance as well.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Visibility. Okay, so let's get back to this because I'm scared about time. Visibility of scheduled posts in native platforms. The answer is no. Scheduled is not available. However, scheduled on native is not available for managed posts. However, this I think is a cool idea, and I am going to. I didn't check on this one ahead of the meeting, just to make sure I could get through everything. I'm going to look in the, and I'll get back to you, on the feature request to see if we track all feature requests, strangely enough, using Salesforce. I will see if it is there. If it is not there, I'll open one for review with the product team. If it is there, I'll just add you to it so they know that you're somebody that would be interested in that. And I'll get back to you on which it is after this meeting.
Okay.
Next one, moving tweets, drag and drop. Yes, it would be awesome. You are absolutely right. Very commonly requested feature, and I will add you to the feature tracking for it so you know it's under consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so this one, full capabilities of keyword searches and widgets. We talked about the timing for Workbench, or that Analyze tab that's coming. That's Q1 of 2016. But I also want you to know, because it seemed like maybe you weren't 100% aware of it, you can today build and edit topic profiles directly within Social Studio. Are you doing that today?
I think we know we can do it, but our data guy, Chris, is out sick today, so this was probably his question.
Okay.
I think he was running into some limitations about what to do where or what's coming over.
That's right. So everything, so if he looked at it, let's say 2 releases ago, he would have been like, well, I can't do source filters, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. It was almost like a limited version. It's pretty, not pretty, it's there. So he needs to look at it again, but if he has follow-on questions, feel free to get those over to me. But there is right now, I can't think of any exception to full feature parity on building building essentially topic profiles out in Social Studio. So let him know that that is there. And will analytics be available from Instagram? Yes, it's there today for sure. For managed accounts, you get it out of Analyze. Quickly, because I know, quickly I know we're going. Can't delete a post. Yes, you couldn't. You couldn't delete a post. Now you absolutely can. You just go over to wherever it is and click on it the same way you would to share that post. And you say delete this post, and then you can delete it on platform. So you would just say delete on network here. And there's a bunch of different views. If you prefer using the list view, you can do it, but you can do it now. So again, it's just one of those things where you guys were like, darn, we can't do it. And then the team was like furiously working in the background and they delivered it. List from a Twitter stream to Social Studio. I think that you mean basically like if you have a list that you created. Again, if it's an RSS feed, you can. So if it's anything that's RSS feedable, you can either, for listening, create it as a source filter, and I'll give you some info on this, a source filter, and then add it into a topic profile, or if it's something you want to be able to pull those tweets from or something, you can add it to that RSS feed in the apps sidebar, and use it as kind of a source, a place to source information.
Can you do that in the engage part to watch what's being posted to a list? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you could do it engage too, but the way you have to just think about it as listening. So if you think about it as listening first, you would create a source filter and then add that to a topic profile. It's going to count against your EMV, which is fine. I mean, if it's something you want to listen to, it's something you want to listen to, and then you bring it in to your engage columns. Yeah.
Now I got what you're talking.
Totally. Can't upload multiple photos to Twitter, right? And it is available via the API. It's coming. I don't have the time frame for it. I told you guys though. Yeah, it'll be here. And then I am sharing your feedback on upload sizing. I don't know I just don't know yet. I'll get you guys the answer on what does everybody think about that on the product team and get back to you. University pages, I'm going to add you to the feature tracking. They know. And I am pushing, as you can probably imagine, a lot on that. And as soon as I have timing, everybody that I've added to that will get an update from me on timing to deliver. This one I wanted to ask you guys about. You said you can't see tweets you've retweeted in Social Studio. What do you mean?
So we can't, so if I retweet something on Twitter, I don't see it in Social Studio as a post that's been posted.
Yeah, I think it's just, hold on, where is it? Here it is. Okay, so
platform other than through Social Studio. Right, that it doesn't come in, just like scheduled posts.
Well, no, it should. Anything that comes from you should, and you can also filter to see all of your posts in like a column. I think I'm getting your question, but let me go over here, filter. So this is a Twitter. I'm saying I want to see my tweets and only my tweets. That should include your all of your tweets.
And what we were talking about was in the published calendar. So as we're scheduling content, we want to see timing of when, so we don't retweet everything at the same time that things are scheduled. It'd be nice to see in the calendar that something was retweeted 5 minutes ago, so that means we'll schedule something for an hour from now rather than 2 minutes later, if that makes sense.
So you're saying you want, essentially, it's replies you would want to see in the calendar.
So things that were retweeted from a native platform just to show up on,
Well, regardless of where they're coming from, if you think about it in just like you chunk it all the way down to what it's considered, it's not, it's a reply to a post. It's not an original post. So, okay, all right, let me check into it. I don't know. I have a thought on that, but I don't want to be wrong, so I'll check into replies in the calendar.
We really like obviously the functionality of publishing in the calendar, but we like the calendar as just a working tool that we look at and can see what we've done, or we can brag to our managers that we did a lot this week or whatever. So the more we can get in there, the better off, what we're saying.
Yeah. That's
like that
pretty...
Cloud calendar and integrated into the Salesforce calendar.
Well, okay. I was trying to be a good audience in that last session. So hashtag safe harbor, and I haven't gotten the updated timing on this in a long time. This is how it'll flow through. For customers who are Marketing Cloud customers, eventually this in some way, and they haven't even shown us like a wireframe of it, but this information and Marketing Cloud information, calendar information, will eventually come together. If I don't have time frame on it, it means it's a while out. It's not the next 3 releases, which I mean, that could be 6 months, 3 releases, right? Because we're on such a short schedule. But just know they know that that is the next step. After that, there have been customers that are asking to also see that in Salesforce. The product team is still, I'm giving you like all the dirty laundry. The product team is still kind of torn on that, or it was the last time we talked about it. They don't know how, what the right way is to go, but they do understand that Marketing Cloud customers would like to see all of this stuff together. They get that, and they know that, and it's prioritized, and they know they have to figure out the best way to execute on that. Totally.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about, and I got your request on replies in the calendar. Can we have them shown? And I'm sure you'd want to be able to toggle them in and out, so you know what's planned and you know what's not planned. And sometimes you can do that by saying, I don't want to see, I want to see stuff with no author. Okay, so your last couple of questions. Oh, your last question. We have questions about general search. What were those questions? We have about, by a regular time, we have about 8 minutes or 8 minutes before I turn into a pumpkin. So what were some of the questions here on general search and engage?
Yeah, so if we have so an example was a week ago there was a shooting at another campus that we were trying to follow to gather information.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than having to go through Radian 6 to set up a topic profile to blah, 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 we just wanted to have a search bar that I could put that hashtag they were using in and just use that as a stream.
Yeah.
But it's not that, I couldn't find anywhere that was that easy.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go through.
Using native platforms instead.
Right. Yeah, I don't want you to do that. I want you guys to be able to work. Okay. So if I want to add a column, you want to add a topic profile, and you say it's not there, right? Mm-hmm. So the way I would do that, if it were me, the way I would do it. Now, ideally what you want to be able to do is just create it right here, right? Mm-hmm. They've gotten that feedback. They know we all want to be able to do it from here, but right now they haven't yet delivered that. So here's what I would do. There's a couple things I would do. If I was on the road, I would use the mobile app and just create it on the fly, but using an analyze dashboard. But if I'm at my computer and I create it from my computer, I would say I want to create a new topic profile from analyze. Okay. And this is what was the hashtag we would have been listening for?
Let's do. It was hashtag Officer Swayze.
Oh, spell that for me, please.
S-W-A-S-E-Y.
S-W-A-S-E-Y?
Yep, correct.
Okay. All right, so here's my topic profile for Officer Swayze, and I'm going to say Officer, and then I'm going to add my keywords, and I'm just doing the actual, I'm not doing anything, I'm not tuning it because you guys are watching me and that would be boring, but you know, Officer Swayze, okay? That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to create my keyword group. And if I was going to be anal, I'm not going to tell you everything I would have just done, but let's just say we're going to do that. I'm going to keep it just exactly as it is for the purpose of this being quick, right? But remember, you can add and remove source groups here. So if you want to take out your own posts or add a specific filter, you could. I'm going to go ahead and say this is a draft, and I'm going to activate it and say activate. I'm going to save the topic profile. As soon as I saved it, you just saw me, I just saved it. It's going to open up a 7-day snapshot of everything that happened in that moment. This gives me a good frame of reference to know where are the conversations happening, right? So now I can see by platform where are the conversations happening. Overwhelmingly, because I chose a hashtag, it's Twitter. Now what I can do is go into Engage, right? I can do whatever I want. Also, I can get my top 50 terms, everything that you would normally do with that type of a dashboard you can do. But now I'm going to add my column, topic profile, and I'm going to now add Officer Swayze from here. And you have it in Engage now, and you can filter it by whatever you want. If you just want the last day, if you want a custom date range, all of the conversations, and you can filter the column as well to say I only want, you know, Twitter, because I'm only going to be responding on Twitter if I was doing engagement. I can, if I had keyword groups, I could filter by just keyword groups. I can filter by language, status. The cool thing about status is, and priority, I can say I only want to see new content that hasn't been reviewed, and then I'm only seeing a status of you know, what I really want to see in the tool. So I would say if I were you, play around with analyze for listening, and then engage and engage filters to really find the right post that you really want to use. Those are my tactical things for you guys as a team based on the questions that you shared with me.
Cool. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't cover everything, but we covered a lot. And is there any, oh, let me go back to this. Are there any other questions while we're in the tool?
I think I had anything specific.
Okay. So looking ahead, I'm going to send the answers to your questions and answers. It probably won't be today. It will be tomorrow. The information that I provided to you on support, so you've got it and you can click on it and just get to the stuff, and the resource information that we talked through both on this call and that I already had compiled. There's another thing I didn't show you, but this Social Studio Getting Started page, just bookmark it. But what I want you to know is there are webinars weekly on each of the different areas of the tool. So listen, engage, and publish webinars every week. And there's a workbook that you can go through that will, you guys are probably beyond this, to be honest with you, but there is a pretty good workbook that talks about thinking about configuring your tenant, essentially. And then every Friday at 11:30 Eastern, there are office hours they're managed by the success team. And you can just go and ask questions. If nobody shows up, they call it a day. If people show up, then they hold office hours. I would say go to that whenever you can, just to stay on top of what's doing in the tool. Oh, and then I want to make sure that we are following up. Matt, you and I follow up on setting a time, 60 to 90 minutes to go through. It's going to turn the tables. You'll be showing your screen. You'll be talking about how do I, where should I, what do you think about this? And we'll just kind of noodle through like a working session on your workspace strategy and any other kind of configuration admin type, both strategic and tactical questions you may have.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I'll do that with you offline in the essence of time. While I've got you, anything that I didn't mention that you would like me to provide after this?
When you adding Yik Yak?
I know. I was like, I'm gonna get through a whole call with that. You know what? Here's the problem. the people that are talking, the people that are talking on Yik Yak, it's all relationships. So even if you saw it, it's similar to Facebook. You're not going to be able to do that broad listening and see everything you want to see on Yik Yak, unless they're talking to you. I get it.
Yeah, but I spent a lot of conversations about that dumb tool, but.
I know. I was just having a nightmare about Yik Yak earlier this morning. Yeah. I mean, you know what? I'll just keep asking. I'll keep asking the product team what they think. But I think the problem is when you have those authenticated accounts, you really won't see what's meaningful to you anyway until someone else brings it to your attention. I think that's where in the industry, that's where we need to be focusing, is giving a path to report the stuff that people see based on the relationship with the poster.
No, I hear you. I support you on that one. It's just not everyone across campus agrees with that when they ask us to watch the Yik Yak 24 hours a day.
I know.
So it's, as these new platforms come in, I mean, part of that was just when these platforms come in, what do we do? So we'll just go through that.
A lot of times we ignore them because it's not on our strategic roadmap.
I'd love to ignore them, except when the dean of students is calling me all the time.
That's right. It's hard. Yeah, I feel for you, and I think there's just this balance on how you what value you can derive is for those authenticated platforms. It's tough.
Yeah, then Geo, that's another, maybe down the road. Where does that play into Social Studio? Because we're looking at some other tools to help us with Geo monitoring, which gets into Yik Yak and stuff like that. But
we just bought a Geo tool.
Which?
GeoPoint.
For monitoring social, or?
Oh,
no, but I wonder.
No, that's lab development.
Yeah.
That's something that is going. So so we play very, very well with our providers and with our partners, like the Tweetsies and Facebook, and what they can expose to us, they do. Where you see folks that are getting down to the post level and giving detail on location by the post level, that's really skirting the terms of service of the media provider, which is like the Twitter behind the scenes, and we just play by the rules there.
Yeah, because they can kick you out. It would be dire.
That's right. Well, that's right, and we have very deep relationships with them. However, that said, the information that's being provided, so you'll see it, like the high-level visualizations, you can get at least down to, say, city in some areas, on some platforms. It's when you get to the post level, they don't want you to have that poster's what's considered PII, right? But I think some of that, what's exposed, is going to make it more actionable, especially as social customer service becomes an expectation. That information, and it's used in marketing today, which is what kills me. That more and more you'll see, I think, a loosening of that, and I'm fascinated by that idea. So I'm going to follow back up on that. That's like the theme of today, is authenticated platforms and how to handle them and how to make them, how to not have exposure there. And the other theme is geolocation for social. So I'll follow up on that again, because it's been about maybe 6 months since I talked to anybody on product on that. So I'm dying to know as well, for the same reasons I think that you guys want to know, which is 1, keeping students safe, and 2, keeping students notified.
Well, that's the main thing. So there's a tool called Geophedia. So there's other platforms that do actually have the agreements with the providers, and it's law enforcement or safety types of things.
Right.
Big part of what I do.
Yeah, and I think that's where we have our purpose, and our purpose it can be multifaceted, and I think we just have to play within those guidelines. But I do want to know, so I'll ask that question. So here's the questions I'm following up on: location, authenticated services or authenticated platforms, specifically Yak, but also kind of what do they see coming? The ability to view and toggle view of replies in calendar. The question on when I'm in a workspace and I'm looking at publishing reporting, am I seeing all posts or all posts that were published within the workspace? I can probably just test that on my own, but I'm going to ask the product team on that. Premier code, if you need to use a Premier code, I think the answer is no, but I'll check. And then I'll send you just all the information that we went through, and then also Matt schedule with you the upcoming strategy session.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Just really last point on the geo part and any other tools, at least the culture around here, everyone's like, hey Matt, why don't you just call up the social media and get an answer for me? It all blurs together. So part of what we need to do is frame what the tools can do and what they can't do, so that when I go and, hey, how come you're asking for 10 more bucks to get this geo tool? I thought you could do that in Social Studio. That's where some of the conflicts start to play. So that's more internal, but it's also work with y'all as partners too. How do we frame exactly what these things can do as new tools come out, as new apps come out, and all that stuff? And because not everyone understands social media. Well, very few people understand social media in campus environments.
The second thing that I'm encountering, and I'd love to get your sense and your experience for those of you who've worked here much longer than I have, is we are actually putting wonderful, sophisticated tools in the power of all sorts of people locally, which is fantastic. We do it without any organizational change.
Great.
We do it without any continual education or training or onboarding. And so it's putting some pressure on select individuals, whether they're folks on a particular project team or they happen to be part of the COE or you. So one of the things that I'm pushing hard is to start a conversation about, you don't just hand somebody a tool. There's actually some process, and it's functionally based information that needs to be managed and conveyed. The technologists who are putting it, who are serving it up to folks, are doing what they need to do, and we can support platforms. But we need to be very mindful before we unleash another tool onto people. And I actually have a concern about that. We've had some experience with our advising community that has been mixed and strained in this regard. And ecom, we're coming up with 287 people. We haven't done anything quite like that. And we're asking a lot of a few people. So I just think it's important to acknowledge, and I'm starting to socialize that with senior leadership, because, you know, we get pounded back. Can't have more people. It's like, well, we're not going to be successful implementing this because it's more than just plugging in the technology or provisioning users or opening up social accounts.
Well, I think that's what our conversations will go with that and all that too, is, you know, for social media, it's the enterprise-ification of social media, right? Yes. So that's where we got to figure out. We have almost 2,000 social media accounts across campus. So
just our campus. That's
just a few folder. And not all of those ones that we manage through Social Studio, but let's just say there's 1,000 of them that are Facebook and Twitter. So if we want to get serious about that, we want a tool that can do this stuff, but then a pricing model of 1,000 accounts. So that's why you don't see a lot of us having users on there. That's not a big play for us right now because we email crap out. Like, even if I added everyone on campus into this tool, I'd still have to email that report out because everyone's like, oh, I can't go into the tool and look at it. Well, email me something, right? So that's secondary to the accounts. So that's what we'll have to figure out. How can we scale to get beyond just our pilot number of accounts of 20 accounts? I would love to say we could close down 600 of those accounts, and we don't have to do that, but that's probably not the reality, right? So it's your balance of how do we bring some enterprise standards to all kinds of things, email and all this stuff, but social is even trickier because it's so damn easy to go create a new account.
Sure.
And nobody in our environment is enforcing Department X to say, no, you can't do this. You have to go through Social Studio. So once we have this really rocking, that's what we've been doing with our pilot, then I'll be more confident to say, Department X, no, you can't do that, but we have this for you. Right now I haven't been able to do that as much because it's like I really don't have an alternative for them right now, and that's where we get into cultural battles of, you know.
The other carrot I want to see is we're combining a series of capabilities instead of point solutions. So social is inherent to Student Success 2.0, to involve student affairs organizations, to up the game with our new Student Welcome Office and the things that we've been talking about, and mapping out the holistic student experience. And then we have to go and tap into the deans and the department chairs, because without them, they're going to continue to do what they think they need to do in order to serve their students. And these are well-intentioned, actually. But I think it's the combination, because if we take out the social tool or, you know, marketing cloud, that's the wrong strategy. We should be saying, what are you trying to do? How do you want to connect with people? And ultimately, we need to work together because we're passing pillows back and forth, right?
Right.
So we have an attrition problem. I need to pass the pillow to Aaron, who then takes it and works with Shelley and Mary Steiner and others and you two of you, to bring students back in the fold. I mean, that's conceptually the vision that I hope we can get to with folks. And then compliant, we're not beating people with a stick.
Right.
That's an attraction
Exactly.
to think differently.
That's where the reporting, that's where we want to be able to do some of these workflow reporting mechanisms so we can actually report that. And it's harder to hide behind, you know, we do that with a little bit of metrics now when it's like, okay, great, you have your own Twitter account and 4.5 people saw your tweets. That's really crushing it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, right. That might not be the best sentence, but exactly that, showing what works and what worked in other teams. And the other thing, I know, Matt, did you say you were at the Pepperdine presentation at Dreamforce? Was that you that said that?
No.
No? Was it Jonathan or somebody else doing something there? I know the CIO there. They've got a great program.
Well, we've talked to one of their people.
Yeah, they're just really small compared
Yeah,
to
they're small, but the idea is when you start to be able to learn by workspace, I think it was, who was it? Rebecca, was it you that was saying, or Melissa? Was Melissa saying, hey, I want to be able to know about the workspaces when I'm looking at publishing? What are the results? Mm-hmm. That's what you're talking about, Matt, to be able to go, this workspace is doing something really right that's resonating. What is it? And dissecting that and saying, can we as an institution wide learn from this? Mm-hmm. Or the other way, how can we model these people that are underperforming under what we've now established our benchmarks are by platform to come up? They're not using media. They're not, delivering compelling links. They have no real voice. They're just broadcasting, all of those things that maybe they can't see because they're just in the moment trying to do something on social, right? Air quotes around that sentence. So yeah, I love the idea of using the reporting to both inform the platform strategy and to have almost a playbook that works by platform for publishing and engaging, that people can then, they don't do social for a living, right? So they can then have some sort of frame of knowledge on how to do this for themselves. But then also having those coaching moments. That's what Pepperdine is doing with the reporting. They meet monthly as a service provider for an hour a month with whoever's doing it in that workspace, whatever practitioners they have, and they say, what worked, what didn't work, what do you have that's coming up, and then how do we work together? Can athletics, you've got this campaign coming up, I'll start listening for that as well, so I can drive engagement on the because I manage, say, communications, I manage our brand handle, and that's the type of strategy that I think will help the entire, lift everybody's results.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, that, and if you have the winning lottery number, we'll be in really good shape.
Perfect. Yeah, can't help you there, sorry.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank
you,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah, thank
That
you,
was
Jeff.
great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Sorry to have gone over. Thanks very much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I'll send this stuff out tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Do we have anyone else online, or?
I believe it's 4 o'clock. Yeah,
No, actually, it's
oh, that's just you.
we
Just
all
us?
Just
We're all actually in a room together.
Wow.